Hey everyone, it's Jason. Welcome to an unboxing for Dice Throne Season 1 Rerolled. So what is Dice Throne? It's a dice checking combat / card game. So it has various similarities to like Yahtzee in the sense is because you're rolling dice up to 3 times to try and get a sequence of dice to perform special abilities your characters have. And you're playing as a very vast different group of characters. So here's some of the ones from Season 1. We have the Treant, the Ninja, the Paladin, the Monk, the Shadow Thief, the Pyromancer, the Moon Elf, and the Barbarian. So you're gonna each player will take one of these. It's typically a 1v1 game, but you can play 2v2 or 3 players. There's some different modes. There's also the adventure mode you can pick up, which adds a co-op element. And there's some, you also play King of the Hill. You can play 4v4 versus everybody rather than on teams. So some different ways to play there. Yeah, each character has their own set of board, their own tokens, their own deck of cards. And you're playing against each other, rolling the dice to perform attacks, using cards to modify attacks, or gain extra points to spend on things, upgrading your character board, and essentially just trying to beat your opponent. So it's a really fun thing. If you want to see more on how exactly to play the game, I have done a how to play video for Dice Throne. I'll put the link down in the description. That way you can check that out so I don't have to spend time doing it here so we can jump into the game. Now, what is Season 1 and Rerolled? Those are 2 other big words in here that we need to know about. So there are multiple seasons with 8 characters. There's Season 1, Season 2, and then there's also the Marvel. And then now they have released a Christmas set as of this point, which is just a 2-player deck. You can buy all these in either a 4-player. I know the Marvel came in a 4-player base set with a bunch of 2-player packs. I think all the Dice Throne came in 2-player sets. So you can pick them all up individually, or you can pick up this big giant box, which has all the characters from one season. You're going to get the same content either way. And then Rerolled is the difference, because these are basically, they took all the original stuff that came out, and when they updated the rules for Season 2, they just made the edits to these guys for reprinting them. So it's kind of like the 2nd edition. So that's definitely cool. One other thing I do want to point out about this is I love this box for Season 1 or 2 if you want to pick up these boxes, because they hold all the characters. They each have their own tray, and you can match them up on either side so you know exactly which character you're grabbing. Again, just the big box itself is, and I can't really get a very good angle of this with my camera, but it's supposed to look like a book. So it's got like the bindings, like the pages, and then it's like the binder on the back side. And then if we actually flip into the inside, there's a nice big artwork picture with all the different characters fighting. And the lore is they're fighting because of the Dark King back here is basically pulling people from various parts of history or worlds or wherever these are to combat because he wants to find the strongest person to fight. So you are fighting with dice for the throne is basically what's going on there. So in the box, we are also going to get a rule book and a little pamphlet which shows some of the other things you can get. You can get play mats, you can get card sleeves, you can get dice trays and t-shirts. There's Season 1, there's Season 2. You can also get miniatures. The miniatures don't serve any purpose for this game. They serve it for the adventures mode. But they have standees for that, so again, it's an optional thing to get. And then there's the big rule book, which you can go through. It explains all the different stuff, which again, I'm not going to go through it in this video because I like to hop in. Alright, that is what we have. The other thing we will go over at the end of the video is the promo cards. So if you want to see the promo cards, stick around to the end of the video. Just that way I can go through them as we went through each character. So we're just going to start with the Barbarian here. I'm going to pop him out. Move that there, move this over here. And we'll see what the Barbarian has. So each character has their own little tray. I'm going to kind of zoom my camera down a bit. So we pop the nice trays open. And actually, they stick very well. Like, and like the lid pops off, but I can flip this upside down. And it's gonna pop off, I guess, because it doesn't stick that well. But like when it's in the actual like dividers in there, or if it was laying in a box and like you had a box pressed on top in a 2-player box, it's not gonna dump out in the box. So it's actually, you know, if you throw this in your backpack, they're probably gonna spill out. Alright. So we're going to have the big dashboard for the Barbarian, which we're going to go through all his different abilities. We'll look at those in just a sec. We have his leaflet, which will have all his stats on there. Then we have his combat dials, which will have different images of him. So his health and his combat. We have his dice, which are these nice pearlescence red with some white, yellow, and pink on there, and then his deck of cards, and his stack of tokens. Alright, so let's look at, before we look at the deck of cards, let's look at his character sheet here. So we have the Barbarian. He's a complexity of 1, he's pretty simple, and I'm not going to read through all the description, but he's going to come with 2 concussion and 1 stun token. Yeah, it's a very simple. There's his dice. He has sword, life, and pow for power. His abilities are concussion. So I'm only going to read this through the first time on each character. Once they come up again, I'm not going to give a second time. But concussion's a negative status effect. It says, players afflicted with this token must skip their income phase and then remove this token. So it's kind of nice. They just help, keeps him from being able to do more stuff. And then stun. Players afflicted with this token may take no action of any kind, no cards may be played, no defense may be made, no status tokens or passive abilities may be used. After the attack concludes, the player afflicted with stun removes the token and then immediately targets the same opponent with an additional offensive roll. If this opponent is removed from the battlefield, this additional offensive roll is forfeited. Cool. So that's kind of neat. So the player afflicted with this token can take no action. And then after the attack concludes, the player who's inflicted with stun removes the token and immediately targets the same opponent with an additional offensive roll. Huh. Weird. Yes, it's kind of neat. So if I put the stun on my opponent, can they alter my second offensive roll? Yes. The stun is removed when you begin your second offensive roll. So basically you get 2 attacks. It's worded really weird in here. A player afflicted may not do anything after the attack concludes. So basically you attack them. They can't do anything against it. And then the player who inflicted it removes the token and then targets the same opponent additional time. Okay. If I reread it that way, it makes sense. Yeah, so you basically get 2 attacks on the opponent, one where they can't do anything. So it's actually pretty powerful. Alright, then let's look at his dashboard, or hero board, or full board, whatever you want to call it. He starts with smack. So he has his main one is 3s, 4s, and 5s. It says 4, 6, or 8 damage. He gets Sturdy Blow, which can deal 4 undefendable damage. He has Fortitude, so if you draw a bunch of the hearts, he gets to heal, which is actually pretty cool. Overpower, roll 3 dice, then deal damage equal to the total roll value. The value is at least 14, inflict concussion. Okay, so that's actually kind of neat. You can pull that off. On his other side, he has Mighty Blow, which is a small straight, which deals 9 damage. And then his large straight deals 15, receive 4 damage in return. Any damage only applies if at least 1 hit was successful. Okay, so that's actually kind of cool. So that way, if he misses or your opponent blocks all of it, or avoids the entire attack, you don't have to hurt yourself. But you're coming back at you is unpreventable. Which makes sense. Crit Bash, inflict stun, and then deal 5 undefendable damage. And then he has a thick skin defense roll, so he has heal 2, So you roll 3 dice, but you get a heal 2 for each heart. So you could end up healing potentially 6 health, or you could do nothing. Now you'll notice he does not have any passives, because again, not every character will have a passive ability. Alright, then let's look at his cards here. So, first I want to do is just go through the cards that every single character is going to have. They're all going to have this turn effect card, main phase, roll phase, instant, status effects, and then what you do on your turns. Upkeep, income, main, offensive, main phase, and discard. Then for their main deck, although it will have their numbers on there, so say BARB for Barbarian. Now this is V1 for Volume 1. I think in the video, the How to Play, I said V2, which I thought was for versions, probably for Volume 1. But I could be wrong. Alright, so you're going to have some roll phase cards. We're going to start with Six-It, which says costs 1 and it changes the value of one of your dice to 6. We have Beggar D, which costs 0. A chosen player may perform an additional roll attempt of up to 5 dice during their defense roll phase. Helping Hand costs 1. Select one of your opponent's dice and force them to re-roll it. Now this could be very helpful because it could, if they needed to have like 3 higher abilities or 3 bigger dice or harder to get dice up to 5s or 6s, which only have maybe 1 facing, you can make them re-roll it and they have to hope they could get that. Could change their attack. 1 cost, 1 more time. Chosen player may perform an additional roll attempt up to 5 dice during their offensive roll phase. Samesies costs 1. Change the value of one of your dice to be identical to the value of another one of your dice. The dice it was rolled in the same phase and for the same purpose. So that means if I can't roll my 5 regular dice and then change a dice I use for a token to match one of those. Has to be for the same thing. But what's neat about that is because if I needed, I needed another, for like the Barbarian, if I needed another life card, another life die, if I had already rolled a 4 or 5, I could choose 4 or 5 to get that same symbol. So it's kind of neat that the numbers work like that, good for matching symbols, so you don't have to say match a symbol. We have So Wild, costs 2, change the value of any one die. Try Again, costs 1. You or a chosen teammate may reroll up to 2 dice. It can be the same dice twice in a row or 2 different dice, so that's actually kind of fun. We have Twice as Wild, costs 3, which is one of the higher cost cards. Change the value of any 2 dice. And our last roll one is Not This Time. Chosen player prevents 6 incoming damage, costs 1. Then we're going to get a bunch of instances. Getting Paid, gain 2 CP, costs 0. Tip It, costs 1. Increase or decrease the value of any die by 1. It cannot be decreased by 1 or more than 6, obviously. Bye-bye. Remove a status effect token from a chosen player, costs 2. This is nice because it can be a negative or a positive. We have Double Up, costs 1, you get to draw 2 cards. And then Triple Up, costs 2, you draw 3 cards. And then for our main phase cards, we have Get That Out of Here. Remove a status effect token from a chosen player. So that can be helpful, because you might have something like Stun, you can get rid of it beforehand, or Concuss, get rid of it before it's an issue. Watch it when it's upkeep, but Vegas, baby, cost 0, roll 1 die, gain half the value as CP, rounded up. What status effect? Remove all status effect tokens from a chosen player, it costs 2. And then finally we have Transference, which costs 2. Transfer 1 status effect token from a chosen player to another chosen player. The only key thing here is it have to be legal. So if it has a stack limit and they're already meeting the stack limit, they can't, exceed that. Or if it's something for some reason like a unique status effect that can only be played on a specific player, you can't move it to another player that it wouldn't be able to work for. So now those are the basic cards that every single character will have, whether it's Season 1, Season 2, Marvel, whatever. So I'm not going to go through them with every character. So we've already went through them. We're just going to jump into the character-specific cards, which we start with upgrades. So here we get to upgrade our Smack to now deal 5, 7, or 9 damage. Plus it adds the ability of, on a 4 of a kind. Let's see if I can. So there's that. So it ups that a little bit. 4 of a kind numbers. This attack becomes undefendable. So that's actually kind of cool. So as long as you get 4 of the same ones. Now the thing is, you have 1, 2s, and 3s. So now you could roll 4 dice and get 4 1s, but you could have a 1, a 2, a 1, 1, a 2, and a 3. So you might not. So you might decide to re-roll someone and make these undefendable, which could be very, very powerful. We can also upgrade that a second time to Smack 3, which does now 6, 8, or 10 damage. With still 4 of a kind become undefendable. His next one is going to be Sturdy Blow. So maybe go like this. I don't like to usually hold these cards, but we'll do it for the sake of this video. Alright, so Sturdy Blow is going to keep the same dice, but now it does 5 undefendable damage instead of 4. Yes, definitely can't argue with that. Then we can upgrade that to Sturdy Blow 3, which now does 6 undefendable damage. So definitely helpful. If we flip over to this side, we have Mighty Blow 2, which does, instead of dealing 9 damage, it does 8 damage only, but it's undefendable. So less damage, but more powerful. Well, not undefendable, so you can at least have less of a chance of it getting blocked. We have Crit Bash. Still inflicts stun, but now it does 7 undefendable instead of 5. But we also gain Crit Smash. Inflicts concussion and then deals 2 undefendable damage. So that's actually nice because now you have some way if you only get 3 of these 6s, which is a little harder. But at least it's nice to do if you're trying to get like Crit Bash and you don't, or your ultimate, and you can't quite roll all 5, at least you have an optional ability. Now we flip this back open. We're going to have an upgraded Fortitude. So now heal 5, 6, or 7, and on 3 of a kind, you may also move 1 status effect from yourself. So definitely an extra bonus there. Overpower 2. Roll 3 dice, then deal damage equal to the total roll value. If there's at least 10 instead of 14, now you add concussion, so it keeps everything the same except it's a lot easier requirement, but it also adds War Cry, heal 2 and deal 2 damage. So you can't argue with that too much. And then our final main one is going to be Reckless. Reckless 2, which now you deal 20 damage instead of 15, but you take an extra hit. But, you know, that's fine. For 5 extra damage, 1 extra point is not too bad, especially since you have a lot of healing. And then we have Thick Skin 2, which says heal 2 damage, and it says if you roll 2, you get to roll 4 dice instead of 3, so that's actually really nice. But if you roll 2 hearts, you may also prevent 1 incoming status effect, so that makes his defense really powerful. Awesome. And then we have Concuss, which inflicts concussion on a chosen opponent, costs 1. We have Head Bash. If you successfully deal at least 8 damage to an opponent after their defense is concluded, play this card to inflict concussion. Costs 0. We have Get Some. Roll 5 dice, add 1 damage per sword, and then inflict concussion. And then he has an instant. Feeling good. Roll 3 dice, heal 1, plus 2 for each heart you roll. So that's definitely not bad at all. So that is our Barbarian. I I'm gonna judge by the length of these videos. Going through this character, I'm probably gonna have to do multiple parts for this, just so that we're not getting too long. So let's hop into the next character. Alright, up next we have the Moon Elf. So of course we're going to get our dials, 2 different dials for each character. We're going to get some nice pearly blue dice, which are really cool, and our stack of tokens. So look at our card quick. She's a complexity of 2. On the back side here, she's going to have blind negative status effect. On a 1 or 2 fail offensive roll, next time a player is afflicted, this token concludes our offensive roll. They must remove it and roll a 1 die, and 1 or 2 there fails and has no effect of any kind. Entangle, negative status effect. Player inflicted with this token gets 1 fewer roll attempts during their next offensive roll. At the conclusion of the roll phase, remove this token. So that means they only get 2 instead of 3 rolls. We have evasive, which we've already seen, and targeted. When a player inflicted this token is attacked by an opponent, incoming attack is damage increased by 2, and it's persistent, so it stays on them. And then she has arrows, foot, and moon. And she's going to have 5 evasive, 2 blind, 2 entangle, and 3 targeted. Cool. So let's go ahead and look at her board. We are going to start with longbow. 4, 5, and 7. Demising shot, inflicted target, deal 4 damage. Coveted shot, gain evasive and deal 7 damage. Exploding arrow, roll 5 dice, deal 3 damage plus 1 for each arrow, and plus 1 times the number, plus 1 for each foot damage. 3 damage plus 1 for foot, plus 1 for each thing. So you guys can get a decent amount there. And additionally, an opponent loses 1 CP for every moon, and you inflict blind. So it's actually a really powerful ability, but it costs 3 of them 6s, so kind of makes sense. Entangling shot is a small straight with entangling, deals 7 damage, and then you have blinding shot on the bottom for the large straight. Inflicts blind, evasive, and deals 8 damage. Eclipse, inflict blind, entangle, and targeted, then deal 7 damage. And Missed Me, for a defensive roll, 5 dice, on 2 feet, prevent half damage, and then for every arrow, deal 1 unpreventable damage. So, definitely powerful there. Then let's jump into her cards. She's going to have longbow here. But she's going to up it to, change at 4, but now we have 6 and 7, or 6 and 8 instead, so it ups to the higher, but also it's on 4 of a kind, you inflict entangled. And then we can upgrade it to longbow 2, which does 5, 7, and 9, and 3 of a kind instead, so lowers that requirement to inflict entangled. We have demising shot 2. Inflicted target gains that, you gain 6 damage instead, but we also add focus, targeted, and entangle on chosen opponent. So it doesn't do damage, but it does do some good status effects. Down on the bottom here, we have covered shot 2. Does 9 damage instead and gains evasive action. A chosen player gains evasive and deals 2 undefendable damage. I can give it to another player, so that's kind of super helpful if you're playing multiple players. Then we have Exploding Arrow, which now does 2 damage per foot instead of 1. Otherwise, all the rest stays the same. But, definitely not bad. So it's a lot more damage it can do. The foot is your mid, your 4s and 5s. Oh, then we have, I didn't even realize we had an Exploding Arrow 2. So it says 3, 1, and then stays at the 2 from Exploding Arrows 2. But it also inflicts blind and entangle. So definitely not bad. Adding just an extra status effect on there. Entangling shot stays at a small straight, but now it does 9 damage instead. Blinding shot 2. Now does 10 damage. We also gain Lunar Blessing. Evasive 3. or 3 evasives and entangle. So that's actually really helpful. That's actually probably not super hard to get. We have Eclipse 2, Inflict Blind, Entangle, Untargeted, and then deal 9 damage. And then Moonshadow, gaining evasive, Inflict Blind, Entangle, and Target. She's all about throwing them status effects out. And then we have an extra defense. We have Mist Me 2. So on a double foot, prevent half damage. And then for every, deal 1 unpreventable for every single arrow. So instead of it being 2, now it's on every single. So definitely cool. That is her quick board. That is going to go a lot quicker now that we've went through them all the first time. Alright, so we have her deck of cards. We have Moon Magic. Costs 4 CP, which is one of the highest ones you're probably going to see in the game. Evasive, inflicts blind, entangle, and targeted on chosen opponent. So yeah, all the status effects. She has Take That, attack modifier, roll 1 die on an arrow, roll add 2 damage on a foot, inflict tangle, on a moon, inflict blind. Volley, attack modifier, roll 5 dice, add 1 for each arrow, and then inflict tangle, and evade. Chosen player gains evade. And again, I like this whole chosen player thing because it kind of is helpful if you're trying to play a team. Plus adding all these status effects to be very powerful. Alright, so that was our Moon Elf. Yeah, so not terribly long of a thing there, so we'll probably get through most of these in this video. We'll see. Alright, let's go to the next guy. Alright, up next we have the Pyromancer. So the Pyromancer is going to, again, we have our dials, cool artwork on there. She has a bunch of tokens, plus some nice fiery orange dice. So let's take a look at her card here. She's a level 3 difficulty. Gonna come with 9 fire mastery, 2 knockdown, 4 burn, and 1 stun. So there's our dice. Flame, Blaze, Fiery Soul, and Meteor. So it's supposed to be a little bit trickier because she only has 1 of each of these. But let's see what these abilities do. We have Knockdown, we've seen before. We have Burn, negative status effect. Receive 2 damage during upkeep. A player afflicted with this token receives 2 damage during upkeep, and it's persistent. Oh boy, so they get burned and it stays on them. So they're going to take 2 hits every time unless they can find a way to get rid of it. And then Fire Mastery. A player with this token must cool off during their upkeep by removing 1 token. Fire Mastery increases the power of various abilities, so you can stack up to 5. So she's probably going to give herself a bunch of these, but then it's going to, go away after time. And then we have Stun, which we've seen before as well. Cool. So let's go ahead and look at her board. We're going to start with Fireball. 4, 6, and 8 gains 1 Fire Mastery. Which does say at the beginning of each upkeep it'll go away. So if you don't use it fairly quick, they're going to disappear. Burning Soul. So if you get 2 of the 5 dice, little fire guy, so Fiery Soul, gain 2 Fire Mastery per each Fire Soul. Gain times 2 Fire Mastery. Okay. Deal 1 for times dice collateral damage to all opponents. Okay, so that's kind of cool. So she just do 1 for each of those 2 dice. So now it's essentially that's kind of sounding like if you roll a bunch of them, she can do more, but it costs 2 to use it. So we'll have to look at that a little bit closer. Yeah, so I'm not exactly sure. I was looking at the frequently asked questions on the back, and it doesn't really state anything on there on how that works. Oh well, I don't have to worry about it too much. We have Pyroblast. So you get a couple of the regular flames plus a 6 meteor. Deal 6 damage and roll 1 dice. On a flame, do 3 damage. On a blaze, is a little black wheel, inflict burn. On a fiery soul, gain 2 fire mastery. On a meteor, inflict knockdown. So it's kind of cool. You only get to roll 1 dice, so you're going to get one of those effects, but you don't know which one you're going to get. Combustion, add 1 fire mastery. Then here we go. Remove up to 4 fire mastery tokens to deal 3 unpreventable damage per token removed. Cool, so you can remove up to 3, so that could be 12 damage. If you can save all them up. Now remember, you're going to gain 2 for that one, up to 4 for this one, 1 here. Now, you're going to lose 1 every turn, so you're going to want to definitely do those. So we have Hot Streak. For a small straight, gain 2 fire mastery, then deal 5 damage plus 1 damage per fire mastery. So yeah, if you can keep these saved up, you can definitely do some damage. Meteor, gain 2 fire mastery, inflict stun, then deal 1 undefendable damage per fire mastery. Deal 2 additional collateral to all opponents. We have Ignite for a large straight, gain 2 fire mastery, then deal 4 damage plus 2 per fire mastery. And then Molten Armor, gain 1 fire mastery, deal 1 damage, and flame. So if you can keep a bunch of these adding up and you can do multiple attacks somehow, you could do some decent damage. Alright, let's look at her upgrades. She's going to start with a Fireball, which is going to do the same exact stats, it does gain 2 fire mastery instead, which is much better. We have Pyroblast 2. It's a 6 damage, plus now you roll 2 dice and you get to do any of them effects. I don't know why they changed. So, I don't know why they changed some of these on the abilities. So it says, add 3 times things instead of on a die roll. Well, it's because you can get up to 2, that's why. Because the first one's on that, you get this. But I don't know why they didn't just leave it the same. Add 1 per fire. Well, if you roll 1 fire, it just would have made more sense to keep the terminology the same. But you could potentially inflict 2 knockdown. Yeah, some extra burns. Yeah, interesting on why they did it that way. Knockdown and burn, you can only put 1 each, so that's why it's that. We have Pyroblast 3, so it does 6. If desired, you may re-roll 1 extra die. And it does the same thing. Burning Soul 2, so this one's a little bit more on there. So if you roll 3, you get to do Inflict Burn. If you roll 4, you get to increase your Fire Mastery stack limit by 1. So this means now you can hold 6 at a time. And then the bottom 2 stay the same. We have Combustion 2. Gain 1 Fire Mastery, and then remove up to 4 tokens, and now do 4 undefendable damage instead. So you can go up to 16 damage. That's pretty crazy. We have Hot Streak, level 2. Small straight, you gain 2 fire mastery, then deal 6 damage plus 1. But we also gain Scorch, gain 2 fire mastery, inflict burn, and deal 6 damage. So that's definitely fun. We have Ignite 2, gain 2 fire mastery, inflict burn, do 5 instead of 4 damage. And then Blazing Soul, increase fire mastery stack by 1, then gain 5 fire mastery, inflict knockdown. Oh, that could be really powerful, but that needs 2 4s and 2 5s. But yeah, gaining 5 fire mastery right away with that could be super powerful. Then we have Meteorite 2, gain 2 fire mastery, inflict stun, undefendable, and then now instead additionally deal 3 collateral damage to all opponents. And then Meteoroid, inflict knockdown, burn, and stun. And then she also gets some Molten Armor level 2. Defense roll 5 on 1 gain fire. On the 4s and 5s gain a burn or do 1 damage. It just adds an extra status effect. But then this can actually be upgraded to a level 3. So now we get a gain 1 per mastery or per fire excuse me, 1 per fiery soul and 1 per meteor. You gain fire mastery, so you can gain more of them. Deal keeper inflict burn, but now you also get to gain do damage with extra meteors. So actually add the meteors and there's more powerful damages. So that is really cool. We have to look at the ultimate ability, which I kept forgetting with the last 2 characters. So there's a little, that's why there's a little jumps back there. Scorch, we have do 5 meteors, so it's number 60, Yahtzee with 6s. Gain fire mastery, 3 fire mastery, inflict knockdown and burn, deal 12 unpreventable damage, and then deal 2 collateral damage to all opponents. Definitely super powerful there. And then let's look at her signature cards, or her specialty cards. So now this is one thing, because she has a couple more upgrades, she's going to have a little bit less of these. So she has warm up, gain 1 fire mastery, then spend CP as desired and gain 1 for additional fire mastery for each fire mastery. Okay, spend CP as desired and gain 1 additional mastery for each one spent. Okay, so gain 1, then you can just basically spend more to boost it up. So that's definitely helpful for her character. Fire up, increase your stack limit by 1, then gain 2 fire mastery. So we have 3 different things that increase our stack. Okay, we do have 9 tokens, so definitely we can increase that a few times. Red Hot, add 1 additional 1 damage per fire mastery. And then Huzzah, roll 1, add either 3 damage, burn, gain 2 fire mastery, or inflict knockdown. So definitely some cool cards. She's got a lot of playing around, getting that fire mastery, keeping it around, because you're going to lose 1 every turn. So you want to keep trying to gain more and more, so you can keep performing your better attacks. It's kind of a neat little strategy. I can see it's a little bit more difficult than the other characters, but definitely fun. Alright, so that was our Pyromancer. Our 4th character is the Shadow Thief. So if the Pyromancer was all about lots of burning damage, this guy's going to be more stealthy, I'm going to imagine. So we're going to look at the back of his card here. He's a complexity of 5, so he's going to be a little bit harder. He has 7 poison, 2 shadow, and 3 sneak attack tokens, which are going to do what? Well, he has 2 daggers, 2 bags, a card, and a shadow. So a little bit less spread, a little bit more different things. His shadow ability says positive effect. No player with this token is damaged as a result of an opponent's offensive roll. No damage is received and no defense is made. Although the attack succeeds and other effects may still apply. Discard this token after the affected player starts and concludes a single turn while under its effects. Cool. So by single turn, that means if I have it on if I cast it, I want to cast it during my opponent's turn, so I don't take anything there. But whenever they start and conclude, so if I play on my turn ends, I haven't started a turn yet. So the beginning of your opponent's turn is when it would start, and then it goes away at the end of their turn. So if you somehow play it during your opponent's turn, it would stay on all the way through your turn. Not that I know if that would help you. But sneak attack. After attacking a player with this token, may spend it to roll up to 1 die to add the value to their damage attack total. Okay, so that's pretty cool. We only stack 1, so you're not going to get a ton. But, hey, potentially extra damage is extra damage. And then poison, it's a negative effect. Player afflicted with this token has dealt 1 undefendable damage per poison token during their upkeep of their phase and persistent. So you can give them up to 3. So like Pyromancer at Burn, which automatically did 2, this could potentially do up to 3. It's just you gotta get a bunch of them out there. But we do have 7 of those, so you're gonna be able to place them on multiple people if they had them. Alright, there is his bunch of his tokens. His cool purple guys. I like these purple guys. And then his 2 different dials. So I just don't want to take all of them out. And then let's look at some abilities. You know what? We're going to swap this up a little bit. And we're going to do this. We have Dagger Strike. So yeah, these are going to be a little bit harder for him to get. because he only has 2 daggers on 2 numbers instead of 3. But it says if you roll the Thief Bag, which is called the bag, you gain 1 extra CP, and if you gain the Shaggle, you can inflict poison. So maybe going less, you might get more bonuses. So we're going to look at upgrades right away. So it's going to be 4, 6, and 8. Gain 1 CP, and then now you lose the bag, because you're just going to automatically gain 1. Keep the Shaggle, but you're also going to, if you roll the card, you can draw a card. So it's kind of cool. Automatically gain 1 CP no matter what. Then we have Pickpocket down here. So rolling bags gains us 2 CP, 3 CP, or 4 CP. If Shaggle was rolled, up to 1 CP may instead be stolen from your opponent. Ooh, so that's fun. So this guy's going to be able to play some stuff with CP, so hopefully they're going to do some good stuff there. He gets Pickpocket too, so instead of getting 3, 4, 5, or potentially getting 6, and potentially steal up to 2 CP if any were rolled. Cool. So that's definitely fun. Getting a lot of CP from him, so we're going to have to see what that works. Shifty Strike. So his small strikes on this side, which is a little bit different. Gain 3 CP, then deal half CP as damage. There's why we want our CP. You don't have to spend it, you just have to deal half of it. So if he can get up to 15, which is the max, he can do, what's that? 8 damage? You know, because half of 15 would be 14 and a half, so 8 damage. That's actually not too bad. Then he can gain Shifty Strike 2, which now gains 4 CP and does it, so it helps him get higher. And also has Shadow Strike. Deal half CP as damage, rounded up, and then inflict poison. So he does do it, then he also gets that. And that might be easier to get than the Shifty Strike, because it's 4 symbols versus a number rolls. Then he has Insidious Strike, which is a large strike, gains C3P, then deal CP as damage. So I'm guessing it does that 3 CP as the damage. Or your full CP, I bet. The other one does half. It probably does full CP, so that could definitely be crazy. Insidious Strike 2, gain 4, then deal it. But he also gains Shank Attack. 1 of each symbol, gain 1 CP, gain a sneak attack, draw 1 card, and inflict poison. Ooh, that's pretty deadly. Gain money for your other attacks, draw cards so you have things to spend them on, do damage, and avoid an attack. Crazy. Alright. And then he has Shaggle Dance. Gains 3 shadows, which are 6s. Roll 1, then deal half the value as pure damage. Then gain Shaggle and Sneak. Okay, that's cool. So he gains bonuses for doing that. It's actually be pretty nice to get. So then we upgrade that to Shaggle Dance 2. It's just the same thing, except now he gets to roll a die. Yeah, so not bad at all. Or not roll a die, just to draw a card. So he only has 1 die roll though, so I mean it's not going to do super great, but the extra abilities are helpful. Then he has Cardcopia. Excuse me. If you roll 2 of the cards, you get to draw one per each card. And then if we have this one, we upgrade it to level 2. If a shadow was rolled, your opponent discards 1 card randomly, and if a bag, you gain 1 CP. Making people discard randomly is terribly mean to do, so it's really fun when you're doing it. Alright, he has a defense ability. He has Shadow Defense. Inflict 2 daggers, inflict poison. Shadow gains sneak attack. On 2 shadows, gains sneak attack and shadow immediately. Ignoring incoming damage. Okay, cool. Yeah, so it's kind of neat. You get a gain sneak attack, but then you get to use shadows immediately, then avoiding all that damage. So that is actually pretty fun. Then you can upgrade that. Now you just roll 5 dice, so better chances. Otherwise, everything else stays the same. Cool. As the last ability, he actually gets a second defense. Now, you have to decide which one of these two you want to use. So this one, he lets him counter-strike, rolls 5. 1 unavoidable damage per dagger, and then a dagger and shadow inflict poison. And then if he gets upgrades to counter-strike 2, now he just gets to do 2 damage instead. But yeah, so between these two, you have to decide which one you'd rather have him do. It's basically a potential chance. Here you're going to do, potential chance to do a bunch of damage with your daggers. Or you get to do some poison, possibly sneak, and then maybe get the shadows to block everything. The thing is, though, unlike the other dice where you can roll them all and then decide where you want to place stuff, you have to pick which defense to do first. So having multiple options is neat, but it could also make the game a little bit harder. Ooh, we gotta look at his ultimate. I always forget about the ultimate. Shadow Shank. Gain 3 CP, gain shadows, and then deal CP as damage plus 5. Oh, that's crazy. Because again, if you were up to like 15 at that point, that's 20 damage. It's almost half your health. Or half the opponent's health at that point. Alright. Then his cards are Sneaky, gain a sneak attack. He has a instant, Poison Wound, inflict poison on a chosen opponent. Wild Shadow, change the value of any 1 die. If in shadows, change the value of any 2 dice instead. Shadow Coin, gain 2 CP, if in shadows, gain 3 instead. And Enter the Shadow, gain shadows. This is why you can see this would be helpful to have this cast on your turn. And then Card Tricks. Choose an opponent to discard 1 randomly. Additionally, draw 1 card. If it in shadows, draw 2 cards instead. Definitely nice. Cool. Alright, so that's our Shadow Thief. That I think is where we're going to call it for video 1. That's the first 4 characters. We'll pick up part 2 with the other 4 characters. See you guys then. Bye. Alright, for the Barbarian's ultimate attack, roll all 6s, you get Rage, inflict stun, and deal 15 unpreventable damage. Oh, so that's actually pretty cool. They can't normally block your ultimate anyhow, so you can deal 15. You could potentially increase that, but can also inflict stun, so then your next attack will get through and you get a double attack. So that's actually pretty cool. Imagine if you stun them first, and then you hit them with death, and then you get to do a second die. Do 20, 30 damage in one shot. Okay, that's cool for the Barbarian. The Moon Elf's ultimate attack is Lunar Eclipse. All 6s gain Evasive, inflict blind, tangled, targeted, and then deal 12 damage. So 12 damage is nice. It might be a little bit weaker for her compared to some other guys because she has so many other abilities that inflict multiples of these things anyhow. So I mean, definitely doing 12 damage isn't bad. And a lot more status effects than other people are going to get. But you probably already inflicted a lot of these to begin with. And most of them have a stack of 1. So, like, if you've already hit with them on last turn and they're still on there, it's not as beneficial. But if you're playing multiple players, that could definitely be very powerful. So that's what we have for the Moon Elf.